welcome back after your coffee break. Okay, the next presenter we have is Vireena, who we've already met this morning. Does everyone know Vireena at some capacity nowadays? She's been around in her position for quite a while. So Vireena is currently based at SIAC as our CEO for Equestrian New South Wales, and also our National Health and Safety Manager. So very massive roles. My opinion is she's doing an amazing job with Equestrian New South Wales. And an amazing job getting committees to integrate and work together and cross over, and we can all learn off each other through all the different disciplines and different committees. Vireena has decades of experience in supply chain roles with Coca-Cola, Arnott's, and things like that. So a master's in education, management, leadership, and a graduate certificate in management. So very educated for the roles that she holds in regards to our sport. So Vireena also rides.
That's right.
Her passion for dressage came later in life. It had been a childhood dream of hers, which she took up in her 40s. And I'm going to say Vireena's name is associated in our sport with safety, inclusiveness, and education, if I'm not talking out of line. Okay, so welcome, Vireena. Looking forward to your presentation.
There used to be an old saying when I was a teacher. I was a teacher at one stage as well. I think I've done everything. That those that can do, those that can't teach, and those that can't teach administrate. So I found myself again as an administrator, which is a bit of a concern. The first thing I'd like to actually do is introduce Jodie. So, after that, so if you've known for a while, I started in Equestrian New South Wales as Education Manager, which was, I thought, my dream job, is working on education in the equestrian area. And then I Bradbury'd into the CEO role. So I finally replaced myself with Jodie. So Jodie started just after Easter as our new Education Manager. And she comes from a publishing, public speaking and coaching background. She has her own pony, an Andalusian, that she bought after her trip to Spain, which I'm actually doing in October, so I'm excited about that. Does a bit of working equitation and a bit of dressage as well. So we're really very fortunate to have Jodie. So welcome her. I've also brought along, I brought support people. So we've got two people at the back as well from Safe 365. So I've got Brad Dean and Anthony, who's also just started with Safe 365. So they'll be around at lunchtime if any of you are interested in the Safe 365 app. Can I just get a show of hands of how many people are using it? Thank you, guys. Okay, so Rachel, it's an app. And we've done some modifications after last year's one, specifically designed for coaches. So, operates on your phone. One of the things that we do have in there now is a coaching waiver form, an online coaching waiver form. So you can actually do the waiver on your phone. You can sign somebody up. When you hit the go button, it will actually email you back a copy of the waiver signed and ready for your files, so you can get rid of your paperwork. And we will be moving to that, if I have my way, for all incident reporting going forward when Brad works out how to customise it. Yep.
Being a regional head, we don't actually get mobile reception at home.
Okay. I'm not going to talk anymore about Safe 365 because Brad will do a little bit when we're doing a crossover, and then he'll be available at lunchtime to have a chat to you about any issues you might have. I actually realised after I put this together that I'm going to spend a lot of this discussion talking as the Health and Safety Manager for EA more than the CEO for New South Wales, but I get a bit confused about who I am and what I'm doing. But I thought maybe briefly I'd give you a quick understanding of the areas, I guess, that I'm focusing on for our sport. So it kind of falls into two buckets. One is managing the risks associated with our sport, and the other is around opportunities to grow and develop our sport. And they're both important. If we don't manage the risk, we certainly can't grow it, but if we don't grow it, we won't have a sport. So officials and volunteers, and I'm probably not talking so much about coaching. I think coaching has a better program to take care of coaches. You may not agree that it's fabulous, but it's probably better developed and more under control than it is for officials. So our official pool is ageing. It's difficult for them to get accredited, and they are the people that keep our sport running. I talked about the importance of you guys, but also our officials, our judges, our jump judges, our course designers. If we don't have those, we do not have a sport. I was talking to the TD, the core TD for eventing yesterday. They cannot get their third TD for Tamworth eventing this weekend. It's that critical. And the other one is our volunteers. If we do not have volunteers, we do not have a sport. There are estimates out there from the government as to just the value that volunteering in sport adds, and it's in the billions of dollars. You cannot afford to replace volunteers with paid people. They are the gems, and we need to work out how to take better care of them. Social licence to operate, I'm going to talk more about that. And obviously the very critical one is injury to athletes and horses, and that actually ties into social licence, because if we harm people, harm horses, then we lose our social licence to operate. Growing the sport, having a strategy for where we're going. So our board is having a strategy day on the 17th of July, and we've got someone coming in from the Institute of Company Directors to really challenge the board in their thinking about where is this sport going, and providing leadership. As Kristen said a little while ago, we had a joint committee meeting on the 1st of June. We actually got representatives from every committee and discipline together out in Clarendon Racecourse, made them run around. No, we actually just sat down and we talked about what our common issues were across disciplines rather than operating in silos. Coaching committee was also there, so we looked very much at it. Jane was there. I'm looking around at people who were actually there. Creating value for our members. It's expensive to be an equestrian. I was talking to someone from outside the sport who was saying, equestrians, they're in this upper socio-economic bracket. No, that's not true. They're poor people who were born with a passion for horses, and they're poor as a result of that. So making sure that as an organisation, Equestrian New South Wales is providing value to its members, that they feel that being a member is worthwhile, more than just the insurance. In April, we ran a survey of our members. We had almost 700 members respond, which gave us fabulous insights to what people were thinking. I've got one page from that for you guys. Understanding what do our members want, how do we provide value to our members? Because we are a membership organisation. My role, Jodie's role, does not exist if we do not have members. We're here to serve the members. And then this last thing, which I'm going to talk about a little bit at the end. I went to a conference run by the Office of Sport a few weeks ago, and they were talking about this pathways model, this FTEM model, which I'd never heard of before. And for me, it was like the missing piece of the puzzle of how to bring our sport together and connect coaching to disciplines, to everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end. So I am going to focus as quickly, well, I went to the end page. Sorry, pilot error. I'm going to focus on those three areas in my presentation. Talk a bit about social licence to operate, which is in the horse welfare space. Talk about how we're managing injury to athletes and horses and the role that coaches play in that, and also a little bit on this pathways thing that I'm just starting to explore. Okay, talk briefly about the member survey. One of the questions in the survey, how many people completed the survey? Oh, thank you. Much appreciated. One of the questions was, where do you currently access the support you need? So this was to the members, and overwhelmingly the response was coaches. Okay, so 359 people took the time to write free text responses, and the word that came up most was coaches. And, yeah, so if you were in any doubt as to the role that you play within our sport, this tells you how important you are to our people. Okay?
You can't find it, and we knew that 30 years later, 40 years ago, zero.
Okay,
I didn't.
social licence to operate. Can I get a show of hands of how many people have heard this term? Yeah, cool. Kristen sent me she's disappeared. Kristen, oh no, she's not there. Kristen sent me a picture because we had Mike Tomlinson come and talk about social licence in horses last year, and the theme and the picture that sticks in my mind was the picture of an elephant in a circus. Okay, so when I was a little girl, when Colleen was a little girl, you used to be able to go to the circus and you used to be able to see elephants in the circus.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that anymore. Why?
It's not people accepted.
It's not accepted. When the Olympics run this year, the modern pentathlon, there will be no equestrian in there
Yeah.
because of one incident and the way that horse was
Stupid girl.
treated at that thing. So no equestrian in modern pentathlon anymore.
Do you see that was coming over many years though? Because it was
Yes.
placed down in the
I
90s.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just a fake.
But sort of like-
we as equestrians understand that is not the same sport as jumping or dressage. But to Joe Bloggs, who rocks up at the Easter show, and that's their only experience of horses, a racehorse, a show horse, a dressage horse, a jumping horse, a modern pentathlon horse are horses, and all horse sport gets lumped into the same bucket. Okay. Anthony up the back is nodding his head because this is his first attendance at a horse event, and he's going, "What are those horses doing out there?" So we need to think more broadly and go, rather than that's not us, we don't do that to our horses in our discipline, in our area. We need to think more broadly. And that's when I spoke this morning about coaches having a really critical role in influencing the direction of our sport. This is one area that you play a huge role in educating your students about what is good practice and what is not good practice. Did anybody come across the social media around the South Australian show jumper that was, yeah, okay? No. So a South Australian show jumper was filmed hitting his horse over the head with his helmet. Okay? It went viral across the internet. If you're not a Facebook person, you may not have seen it. It actually never came across my feed, but I did certainly hear about it. That's the sort of stuff that will get our sport finished. Right?
But can I add to that? It's also the dialogue that you have, and it's also the interaction you have with that post when it comes across your feed.
Yeah.
So if you comment on it, or you share it, or you like it, you're actually adding
To the problem.
fuel to that problem.
Absolutely.
And that's what people don't realise. I think they're going to write a big blurb and everyone's going to come on board with their opinion. All they're doing is highlighting.
The concept of don't fight in front of the children needs to apply to every professional within the equestrian world. Okay? Putting negative comments on Facebook.
Hard sometimes, so is it?
Yep. If you want to whinge and bitch, ring me. That's fine. I would rather you rang me and took it out on me than put it on social media, to be perfectly honest. Anyway, what's happening in a positive space? So in April in Lausanne, the FAI had commissioned a paper called the Equine Ethics and Wellbeing Commission Final Report. You've all read it? No, you're all going to read it? Okay. It's about a 26-page document that the FEI commissioned, and it is amazingly good. Okay. I read it and was really heartened that it had been taken seriously, and there was something more than... I'll send you links, guys. there was more than motherhood statements about we should be nice to horses. There's some actually really practical stuff in there. So just to give you a really quick overview, it comes down to two things, which I think are really quite simple. That every horse that is involved in FEI sports should be perceived as having a good life. Very simple concept, right? And I really quite like it. And that the mission of the FEI was to ensure that the FEI and we are part of that group, serve as guardians of horses. And it means rules, guidelines, all that sort of thing. Very simple concepts, which I quite like. They didn't go too fancy. And this is their approach. I'll break it down a little bit. So they've got some key ideas, but I'll break it down a bit. Be good. Why does it do this? Gotta love technology. Okay. The first thing is it looks at 6 areas of priority. One is training and riding, tack and equipment. Very simple, and that gets a lot of focus. You know, roll cur, tight nose bands, all that sort of stuff. The second one is being able to recognise physical and emotional stress in horses. The third is making sure that people are accountable and that there is knowledge around what horses need and that it's enforced. So that means sanctions, that type of thing for mistreatment of horses. The fourth one is the other 23 hours. So spend an hour in a competition, what's going on in the other 23 hours? And in reality, it's probably longer than 23 hours across the week. So how are horses being worked with at home? How are they being treated? How are they being stabled? Are they getting what they need? Competition and the treatment of horses as a number rather than athlete and a partner in the exercise. And then the last one is making sure that horses are fit to compete, that people are not masking illness or injury in horses through the use of drugs or other means. So they're their 6 focus areas. Whether you agree or not doesn't matter, but that's what they've decided are the focus areas.
So that would, now does this follow on or flow on to upscaling stewards?
Yeah. So Colleen asked, does this flow on to upscaling stewards? And it will, but it's going to take some time.
That's a shame. You don't think they're aware of this?
There are 6 ways that the FEI is proposing that this happens. They're calling it 6 enablers. They all need to start with E. So evidence, making sure that anything's decided is based on scientific evidence, not opinion, of which most equestrians have lots of opinions. Education, making sure people are educated. There's no point in saying you've got that wrong if they didn't know in the first place. And that's an area I think where the coach network is going to be really, really critical, is making sure that you get this information first so that you can filter it to your students. Engagement, making sure people are aware of it and are involved in it. One of the things that if you actually go and read the document, they've actually got is a proposed, it's almost like a pledge from equestrians to sign that they support this. Engaging people by saying, yeah, I agree, I'm going to treat my horse as best as I possibly can with the knowledge that I have. Regulation, so yes, rules, more rules, and enforcing those rules. And then empowering, making sure that people feel that they can make a comment and they can do something about it. Now, I've spoken to dressage judges who feel like, I really can't bail that person out because of the negative consequences for me if I do that. But feeling that people need to take the needs of the horse into account first, that we really need to do more than lip service for that. So that's a taster. I will send you the link. So I'll send you the link to the conference. You can look it up yourself. It's under the FEI, or I can send you the link. What you'll find in there is the full PowerPoint presentation from the conference, but also this 26-page document on, I think it's 26, the final report. It's worth a read. It's not too boring. It probably won't put you to sleep as equestrians. So, what's happening next? So the FEI are now taking that report because it was done by an external body. They're looking at it. They've just pledged €1 million to developing that and understanding what they need to change. And then on the 11th of July, there's a group of people meeting, so it'd be the National Health and Safety people, people from the disciplines, sitting and having a look at this paper and understanding what are the gaps in EA. And there are many. And then working out what we need to do from an Australian perspective. Okay? Yes, Rach.
In terms of like this report and what you just presented with coaching, to a degree judges, it's kind of in some ways looking at coaches also being mentors, which is kind of what we do in some ways if we choose to.
Yeah.
But it's almost like we're going to have to fulfill, say, that document to a degree.
Have to, I hope, want to.
There are the terms, yes,
Yeah.
but it will become more so that coaches, which a lot of us will do, particularly with, you know, the beginners coming through as riders or lower level intro coaches coming through, you are mentoring to a degree for sure. It just is going to be more, maybe.
Yeah.
So it becomes a bigger job for coaches in a lot
Yeah.
of ways.
And I guess in a lot of ways it's like teachers in schools. They keep getting all these social responsibilities shoved on top of them as well.
And you can choose to take that on board or not.
Yeah.
So just because you got the first aid doesn't mean you actually have to stop it and administer first aid.
No.
Well, it's just like nice because
But I would hazard a guess that most of the people in this room would be happy to form that role with their students. And hopefully by this time next year when you're doing coach renewals is there'll be something tangible in there that you can actually learn. So it'll take a year to get this happening. I just thought it was worth telling you what's going on so that you can read and think about it. Hand in hand with this, the Education Committee have been looking at official and coach education and are working on an online horse welfare module. So we'd started that quite a while ago. Jodie's got it on her task list to actually create an online module. So we will be able to incorporate this into that quite well so that we can do it as an online module.
Fantastic.
Okay. Any questions on that? And I don't have all the answers yet. All I'm saying is here's what we've got and this is where we're going.
So, no, it has to happen.
If you were to develop something like that, the online welfare, horse welfare program,
Yeah.
would that be something, okay, you understand as a coaches, but say as an EA member,
Yes.
a member
Yes.
now,
Yes.
do that.
Yeah. We'd really like that.
Yeah.
And we're actually talking about that yesterday,
Yeah.
is to make sure that there are, and there might be a sub-module about horse welfare at an event, whereas, feeding or, we have different issues in Australia. We don't have a lot of snow at events, but we do have a lot of heat. So we need to make sure it's customised for us. So we've had some really good people involved in getting the content together. One's Jen Golding, who's the Steward General for jumping, who's got a lot of knowledge in that area. Another is Gillian Burns, who's on our board, but she's also an equine vet. And a lot of people will get some stuff in there.
But I think that eventually we should get to a system where that if you go to an event, prior to going to an event, you should have to do an online module that explains to you, and that you should have to have a license, so to speak, to go
Horse
and
license,
compete.
yeah.
Can I add to that? I think it's more than doing it online. I think it's a really great opportunity for coaches to have resources to deliver face-to-face to their students.
Yep.
Can I just say we have tried to push the riding and horse management certificates out to the disciplines nationally to be, that's what they were originally. It's not just to get your coaching, it's to do all of this, and it hasn't been taken up as yet, but it is, it's there.
I think it's great that it's going in this direction, but I think there's a massive gap at the moment with riding schools, because I think that's where all the beginners start, and there really needs to be more implementation there for horse welfare and educating
Don't feel right.
students and coaches as well.
Yep.
So
So let me get to the end part of this, and I'm going to try and
No, I agree.
link this together.
And I'm sort of adding to that, and I know that Peacock can be incredibly difficult to deal with, but the modules that are being developed, can we find a way somehow that can be made available to CODs
To pony clubs.
so that they
Yeah.
can start to use it in partnership?
When I spoke before about it doesn't matter if you're on a racehorse or a pony club horse, we need to share our resources with people and not hold them. If they choose to use them, if they choose not to use them, that's fine. But we need to make stuff freely available to everyone who's involved in a question. I don't care if they're a member or not a member, if they're a coach or not a coach. But the more we disseminate this information out, and I think the FEI goal is that we're the guardians of horses, and we need to be seen to lead. Big ambition, but yeah.
No, I'm just talking about the introductory workbooks. I have a riding school where we hand out a lot and no one ever continues version. And I know a few years ago someone said it's only something like a 2% completion. And I don't know why, but I think it's just too much information. And it's too
So let me get to the end bit because I think it fits into the F10 model, which I'll explain. Very quickly switching topics for a sec and then I'll come back to that. Are you aware there are new concussion rules out? So you know that if someone has a concussion that they have to be excluded from competition for 21 days. In the previous concussion ruling, it had actually excluded coaches from coaching for the 14-day period. That's no longer a requirement. So I'm just going to run really quickly through reporting. Are you aware that if someone has an incident while you're coaching, you should report it?
Yes.
By the formal way, good. Because we're getting a lot better coming back from the coaches. So if there's an incident while you're coaching and you report it, you've done the right thing. If it's a fall and they're not hurt, and you do an assessment on them and you put them back on their horse, report it. It's going to protect you, right? So this is a general presentation for coaches, officials, organising committees. There are now 6 levels of reporting for injuries. Okay, the 6th one doesn't apply to a coaching session. 1, I hope you never see. 2 is a serious injury. So if you are sending them off to a doctor, putting them in an ambulance, consider it to be a level 2. 3 is concussion. 4 is an injury to a horse. 5, a fall with a minor or no injury. So if someone comes off. 6 is for event organisers. If you're an event organiser, what we're going to add in is that every event, regardless of whether there's an injury or not, will need to put this in. And what we're trying to do is understand our denominator. So we know at the moment how many falls we have. We don't know how many falls out of how many rides. Okay, so we don't actually, can't work out if we're getting better or worse. We're actually, our number of reports are going up, and I'm thinking that it's probably because we're reporting more, not because we're getting
That's correct.
less safe. So we need, this is going to be about gathering the denominator. It's really, really quick. It's going to be basically, what's your event, what date, how many people rode. That's it, okay? It's very, as simple as we possibly can. Eventing already have really good reporting. They know their denominator. No other discipline does.
By event, do you mean competition or do you mean anything like a training camp or a coaching?
Definitely a competition, ideally a training team.
And in terms of, sorry, I've got another question. Level 5 falls with minor or no injury. What about injuries from horses pushing people over or rope burns or getting feet trodden on? Do we count those? Or?
Yeah, we need to. Yeah,
See, if you probably find it a serious injury, just qualifying what it's happened.
You wouldn't go as far as the rider in my horse trying to foot. I probably wouldn't go up to the secretary's office and say, no.
And the danger that we have around the way that our
concussion rules work is people are hiding their concussions as well. We all know that. I don't want to report that because I've got a competition. I'm a professional rider. I'm competing in 2 weeks. That is excluded from competitions.
Does every organising community ones, do they have that, if you fall off your horse, must be attended by Thursday? That's every event, every organising community. Right.
That's the message that's communicated. Are they all there yet? Can I put my hand on my heart and say they're all doing it?
No.
Sorry, I touched my microphone. I'll be in trouble.
Yeah.
All right, let's see how fast we can go through this. So all falls must report, right? We got that. If you have something that goes drastically wrong while you're coaching, you can call that number. That will go through to National Safety Manager eventually, which is me, or it will go to Maddie, who's our EA person. You can find it on the website if you need it. If you try to find it quickly and you don't know where to find it, if you pull up the Form 8 and you click option 1, it will show up as the first thing to do as well. So there's no way. I'll send these presentations to you.
I'm not sure. Hold on a minute.
Put that number in your phone, probably not such a bad idea.
And she have a home life.
Oh, can you
I think,
That was married.
has everyone ever filled out a Form 8?
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah. Yes.
3 weeks I did.
If you haven't done one because you've never had anyone fall off a horse while you've been coaching, go onto the website, find it, and save the link, or just make sure you know where to find it before you need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the people that come to these are the converted, right? Concussion, sit them out. Make sure that you check them out before they get back on their horse. There is an app that you can download on your phone. Take into account you may not always have connectivity, called Head Check. Okay? If you load that app on your phone, it will step you through a concussion assessment. Okay? There's also a CRT6 tool if you don't have connectivity and don't like apps that you can actually download. And I would say keep a copy of that if you don't have the app in your coaching pack. Can we put it into say 365, Brad? If you decide that they have got concussion, make sure they are referred to a doctor. If you fill out the concussion part of the Form 8, it will generate a thing called Form 10. EA was so obsessed with form numbers, but it's basically an advice to a doctor that you can give to your person and say, take this to the doctor. Then the athlete is excluded from competition for 21 days, but they are allowed to return to sport. So if you've got an eventer, okay, the first thing that you would probably get them to do is not jump a cross-country course in a graded return to sport. You would probably get them to do some flat work. Yep. In an arena, on a safe horse, not the 3-year-old that threw them off in the first place. Then you might introduce some jumps but you take them through grading with obviously a cross-country course at speed being the highest level that you would want them to get to. But work through with them slowly to get them back to speed. But they will not be allowed to enter an EA competition for 21 days. Now, this is not an EA rule, yay. This is an Australian Sports Commission rule, and it's also been adopted in New Zealand and Britain as well. So it's becoming a global rule. Okay. I'm glad it's not just an EA rule because there's a bit more to it. There's lots of information available if you want to read more about it. That's the CRT6 form. It's fuzzy, don't worry about it too much, but it is available on the EA website if you want to download it and have a copy there. And there's lots and lots and lots of information on concussion in sport if you want to get more information on there. I'm not going to go through the symptoms and signs. I'm just going to assume you've got a reasonable idea of that. Level 4 is horses. Level 5 is a very quick form to fill in. It doesn't even ask you for the person's name. It just says how many falls did you have. I don't like it. I'd like the person's name because sometimes things go pear-shaped. And level 6 we've kind of already talked about, just to get some denominator data. Any questions on that? Happy with that? All right. All right, now for something completely different, but it kind of links to the first bit. So as I said, I went to a very interesting seminar with the New South Wales Office of Sport, and they were talking about this FTEM model. I was like, what the hell is an FTEM model? But it felt like the missing key for me to how the sport's actually managed. So it was something developed by the AIS, and it's now coming down to state level. So the FTEM is an acronym. It stands for Foundation, Talent, Elite and Mastery. For us, Mastery read World Championships / Olympics. And it's a way of actually looking at ages and stages of athlete development. The goal for us from this, for me, I think very simply is to make sure that people are involved in equestrian sport for life. From whenever they start, whenever their parents let them near a horse, or maybe they were born in a horse family, through to whenever they choose to stop. And that may be stop riding but start driving or start officiating. So that we've got a program in place that captures all those people for life. And the other one is making sure that any national squad is overrepresented by New South Wales. Not that we're competitive, but we are the largest state, it's only right. I'll see if this works. This kind of explains it better than I possibly can.
We participate in sport, but for many different reasons. Participation in sport can lead to 3 key outcomes. Whatever the motivation, the Australian Institute of Sport wanted to show how these 3 different pathways work together. After all, having an active, healthy lifestyle or playing sport for sport's sake is just as important as becoming a high-performance sports person. Using insights from the last 30 years, the AIS came up with a new, inclusive sports framework called FTEM, Foundations, Talent, Elite and Mastery. Each describes the major phases of athlete development. The FTEM framework will help us ensure that sports people get the right support at the right time to get the right outcomes. The FTEM framework has up to 10 phases, starting with early movement experiences. When we are young, we learn the basics of movement. Through more challenging movement environments and good quality physical education, we can advance our repertoire of movement skills. Together, these important foundations help us to pursue and engage in an active lifestyle. At the 3rd phase, we commit to developing our sports skills through sports-specific training and competition. This typically occurs within sporting clubs, and many of us happily stay within this sports participation pathway. T1 is the entry point for the high-performance pathway for those promising talents who demonstrate physical, psychological and movement potential. At the T2 level, experienced coaches with a discerning eye for talent further assess attributes such as coachability, determination and positive self-management to verify future sporting potential. Athletes at the T3 level are committed to achieving higher levels of sports performance through more focused practice and training. At this stage, holistic athlete support is critical to reduce dropout and underachievement. As they move through the pathway to T4, athletes reach a significant breakthrough performance and are rewarded for their efforts. At E1, athletes achieve elite status through selection and representation at the highest senior levels of international or professional sport. At E2, athletes win medals at the biggest events, or in the case of professional sports, dominate their sport week in, week out. A few rare athletes achieve sports mastery, the most advanced example of sporting excellence, characterised by sustained success over multiple high-performance cycles. Optimising your understanding of athlete pathways using the FTEM framework will improve and enrich your pathway outcomes. For more information on FTEM, go to our website aussport.gov.au/FTEM.
Okay, so this has just come across, I've just come across this. We're different. We're not soccer. We don't start this big. We probably really don't start a lot until we're 8 to 10. And then some people like me don't start till they're 40. Okay, so we're different to them, but the model could still be applied to us. The F3 foundation is about whole of life participation in sport. So we've got a big chunk of people like me in my other life that will probably be an F3 person for most of my life, but it doesn't mean that me participating in equestrian is any less important than somebody else. Can you see how this is going to be very interesting? And what sits into each of those is the education, the horse welfare, all this sort of stuff that actually fits and forms a holistic picture of how do we educate and develop our athletes. The thing I'm trying to get my head around is then there's horses. So I can be an Olympian, but if I don't have the right horse, I can't compete at the Olympics. So we're really a bit different there. You know, if you're the only analogy that you can have for horses is something like yachting, and they have boats, but you know, boats don't get old, and I suppose they do, but you can just buy a new boat and they're kind of the same. So we're different. But
we have to build our own boats.
we have to build our breed them.
You can progress them.
Sally's bred them and developed them and trained them. So it's different, but I think this is the thing that will sort of pull the sport together. Now, for us at state level, and I'm speaking back as a state person, we kind of go up to about E1, and then E2 and mastery sits at the national level. And I think this helps us define what do we do at state and what do we do at national. But I think, for me, this was really interesting. What are your thoughts? Any questions? About how do we pull in the horse welfare certificates? What are we doing at interschools? What's happening in amateur equestrian? How does para fit? How does cross-discipline fit? How do we make sure that people have a pathway through into officialing or coaching if they're not going to become elite athletes but still want to be performing in the sport? It's
Communication. What's the item I have?
sorry?
Communication. It's
Yes. So I just wanted to give you a taster because that's where my head's at the moment, and it's probably, hopefully it's interesting to know where I'm thinking we should go. So what's next? We need to develop a whole of sport framework. There are some examples that are freely available. Swimming has a fabulous one, clearly. They've got lots of resources. Snow sports is quite interesting to have a look at because they have quite different disciplines. They've got snowboarding versus cross-country versus all this sort of stuff. And they've developed that. I think gymnastics has also got one. And vaulting national committee has started to think about this FTEM framework as well. How do you guys fit in? Absolutely. Like, you need to sort of understand where this goes and how you help your students to develop. And I think that was me.